Okay, I got my dial bore gauge set to the largest journal. That's just the way I do it. If you subtract these in your head, better than adding a couple tenths between them. I just do this in my head as I do this. I'm going to take and check this number one. Let me get my arm out of the way here. If you see that gauge comes down to 3 thousandths. 3 thousandths. Now the number two here. Oh wow, we got about 2 4/10. So that one's a little tight. The first one might be just a smidge loose. This third one, which was actually the largest journal, that's where I have this set to dead zero. That's showing about 2.7. Switch you over here. Now this one, is about 2.4, 2.5 maybe. And this number 5 back here is showing 3 thou, right on the money. Actually like 2.9, depending on the spot of the bearing. Okay, so that back one, I know that back one was a few tenths small. So that back one's, even though my gauge only read 2.9 or 3 thousandths, that's going to end up being 3.5 thousandths. Because that journal on the crank was machined a little smaller than these others to allow for more oil clearance back there. I just do that in my head. You can write this out, do one at a time. You could measure the crank journal, set your bore gauge to that, and do one at a time. There's only 5 of these. I can just kind of keep this in my head. But this next one was actually 3/10 small, so that would add 3/10 to this oil clearance. Now if you can see, this one here is reading like right at 2.5. But plus 3/10, that gives me like 2.8, which is good. This one would be reading dead zero from my setting where I set this dial bore gauge. That's reading 2.8, 2.7, 2.8, so that's good. This journal was 2/10 small from my setting, so I would add 2/10 to this reading. This reading 2.5, and there's about 2.3, so this one's going to be 2.5, and this front one, this front one is actually only 1/10 small, so this one It's actually 3-1. So this one, number 1, is actually my largest clearance. And because it ends up being 3 thou and 1/10, or 3-1 I call it, but some of these others were 2-8, 2-7. I'm going to take these shells out now, and I'm going to measure the shell thickness of the top shell and the bottom shell, and I'm going to see if one of these that were the tightest are in fact thicker than what these are, and I'll take those thick ones from back there and I will move them up here. Then that would make this smaller to get me down where this is where I want it to be, which is somewhere between 2.5 and 3, but I can make them all the same. I'm only a few tenths, 4/10 maybe out from them being all the same right now, but I can just swap these around a little bit and kind of make them all perfect. This motor would run just fine if I bolted this thing together and ran it like it is. So this is a step you don't have to do, but I'm going to I do it just because I got all the toys to do it with. So I'll get back with you in a little bit.